Welcome to this edition of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast, where we talk about topics and resources that help you lead more to reach more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this edition of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast. And welcome to another episode of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast. My name's Tom Bump, and I'm your host. Thanks for joining me, my friends. I am looking forward to sharing with you in this episode. Today, we're talking about our fall launches and what we as leaders need to be thinking about, considering, doing to make fall launch successful. Yeah, at this time of when I'm recording this episode in 2024, it is the middle of the summer, but we need to start gearing up mentally for the fall ministries. You've got to be a couple of months ahead of this. If not, it's going to catch you off guard and you're going to be scrambling. So I want to help you as leaders to be successful and have an amazing fall launch. So we're going to dive into that in just a minute, but let me tell you about the sponsor for this episode, and that is KidmanPlus.net. KidmanPlus.net is a brand new membership community that is continuing to be built and growing for growing leaders. It's a community that you need and that honestly needs you. We're building this community for leaders that want to be leaders, that want to grow as leaders, to think as leaders, to structure themselves and their teams and their ministries for maximum impact. And that's what we're doing over in the Kidman Plus community. There's live discussions. There's weekly topics in the forums. There's live meetups on Zoom where you can connect with other leaders. There's free coaching sessions where you can come and join in and get some high-level coaching and zoom in on some of the projects that you're working on and get some help and some feedback, some encouragement, get some prayer. We have lots of things in there. There's courses for healthy leaders, healthy teams, and healthy ministries. There's a monthly downloadable resource called the Toolbox that you can get access to, and so much more in the Kidman Plus. It's $20 a month. You can cancel at any time. We would love for you to check it out. So go to kidmanplus.net and come and join the community that you need. All right, let's dive into this episode of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast. I can't wait to talk about this. Like I said, we're going to be addressing a crucial topic for any children's ministry leader. Whether you're new in ministry or whether you're a seasoned veteran, you know that a strong launch in the fall is a momentum builder. But if you don't do it right, it can kill momentum and really create some problems down the road. You want to launch well, and that means you've got to be thinking ahead of this. And you should always be, as a ministry leader, working 3 to 6 months out. You should always be working on things. And I know that's hard, especially in the summertime, because we get so focused on the big outreach events. And then all of a sudden, okay, I'll think about fall when those are done. Well, for a lot of us, that could be early July. It could be mid-July. It could be late July. Sometimes when all of a sudden it's like, oh my, here comes August and then September. And depending on when your schools start up, families are going to be looking to get back into a rhythm again. And they have a school to year rhythm. We as a church sometimes don't catch that all that well. And so I want to talk about some of the things that we need to do, some practical steps, some mindset shifts, some delegation strategies, and more. So let's dive in and let's talk about recruiting first and foremost. It's an essential task, and it's something that we need to do in a healthy, sustainable way. And for many leaders, we're so caught up in always being short-staffed, always feeling like no one wants to serve. Mentally, our mindsets have become kind of jaded, kind of negative, kind of cynical towards people not wanting to serve in children's ministry. Well, you have to ask why. Why don't people want to serve on our teams? Well, sometimes it's because of the way we advertise. Sometimes it's because of people's perception of what ministry has looked like. Sometimes it's just that we kind of leak off a negative vibe. And so people don't want to join our teams because of those kind of things. So we have to be careful. And so I want to challenge you to to consider your mindset when it comes to recruiting. If you're having a hard time with this, if you're a new to newish leader, I just released the KMC. It's really called the Volunteer Hero Boot Camp. It'll be up on the Kid Ministry Collective website. It's a 4-session course that walks you through step by step a very healthy, sustainable program, a framework, I will call it, that will help you build out a strategy of consistent and healthy recruitment. Something that, whether you're in a small church, medium-sized church, or large church, you can scale and make successful. I've used this with a lot of leaders that I've coached, and I've used it myself, and it works. It doesn't take up too much time to watch it. I've seen other systems out there about recruitment, and I don't have the time to implement or watch all their videos or do all their notes and all that. I've made this as very simple and sustainable as I can, but you still have to do the work. But I'm here for you. Check it out. The Volunteer Boot Camp. It'll be up on the Kid Ministry Collective website soon. But you have to have a system. You have to figure out, where do you need people to serve? What roles do you need them to serve in? Get specific. So I want to challenge you to identify some specific roles that you need right now. What are their responsibilities? What's their time commitment? What season are they going to serve in? Meaning they need to have a start date and an end date. You should never ask somebody just to come on the team and never give them an end date, because I guarantee you they'll quit faster than anything, because they're going to feel like they're trapped. And you don't want your team members to feel like that. You want them to join something that's exciting, but also know that they have a season to serve in. So identify those specific roles and responsibilities, put it down on a 1-page sheet so that people can see exactly what you're asking, what you can expect, they need to expect from you, and you need to expect from them. Give them the time commitments, give them when they need to show up, let them know how to find substitutes, when they can take a break. You then create a compelling message, a compelling invitation that communicates the value not only to the next generation, but to the leaders themselves. Leaders need to know what they're going to get out of serving. Everybody wants to get some benefit from giving their time. So you need to let them know what's valued for them. What's the value and impact they're going to have? Cast a big vision of impact for them, but use some different methods. So use social media and do it in a positive way. Don't just show all the crazy, wild moments, because for some people, they don't want the crazy, wild moments. Some people need to see the quiet, small groups, the intimate times, the times of quiet worship and prayer. They need to see all facets of this. They don't need to see just you in wild, crazy outfits and getting slime poured all over you, because some people, that's not attractive. And that's why some people don't want to serve in children's ministry. I had somebody tell me once, I just don't want to be on the floor all the time. Well, you don't have to be on the floor all the time. But you know what? That's what I showed them. I showed them the wild and crazy, the slime, the goofy faces, getting my hair painted, and all those kind of things. I used to advertise all that. And yes, you want to celebrate those things, but you also don't want to communicate that that's all there is to children's ministry. That's why, if you're always talking about how tired you are, how worn out you are, how short-staffed you are, if you're constantly showing those kind of things, which I see that in social media all the time, many kid ministry influencers, that's all they talk about is how tired and worn out children's ministry leaders are. Well, guess what that communicates? Children's ministry is totally exhausting. You're going to be totally drained and totally wiped out. You're going to feel worn down and beaten up. Who wants to join a team like that? So you need to be thinking about how you're communicating and what you're putting out there. You also need to schedule some onboarding ways for people to come check it out, whether that's come take a tour through our children's ministry, come to an orientation or a training session, give them some video trainings that they can watch, some video orientation videos they could watch. Make it simple for people to join your team, but give them the clarity they need to make the decision and invite them into something bigger. All right. So enough on preparing our volunteer teams. We've got to get them geared up. We've got to get them ready. We've got to make sure we have all the resources for them. We have all the tools ready for their toolbox. giving them some things, maybe even creating a special sheet for when the service runs long. Here's some activities you can do with your group to keep them focused and not bouncing off the walls. Get all those things ready for your team. Ask your team what they need going into fall. Get it done for them. You also need to get all of the curriculum stuff ready for the fall launch. Maybe you need some new signage. Maybe you need some new posters in the classroom. Maybe you need to up your game on your stage and create some more environment. Maybe you need to help your storytellers with some object lessons and some training. That's one of the things that I do with people is train them how to present Bible lessons and do it in an effective way. I would be happy to meet with your presenters and show them some techniques and ideas, or even watch them while they're in action and review some of their videos and give them some critique and encouragement. But we need to make sure that we're prepared, that we have all the resources, all the tools, go through all the crayons and the markers and everything in the bins, and make sure that old stuff is taken out and new stuff is there. Small group leaders want to come in and they want to feel like there's a new launch too and some freshness. So maybe this is a time to do a refresh on supplies. Everything's on sale right now. Now's a good time to get your cabinets replenished and do a supply drive with your church and encourage people to give in those ways. But you get those things ready and you will be ready for a great fall launch. You also need to think about, how are you helping your families transition back into a school year? There's a lot of stress, especially for those parents that their children are moving into kindergarten or even to first grade. There's a lot of stress there and there's a lot of nervousness. Think about some things that you can do to encourage those parents as they take their kids to school and as they make that transition, even in your ministry, into the elementary ministry or into the preschool ministry, or they're moving up into the student ministry. What can you do to help ease the fears and make the struggle go away? Consider some resources that you can share by text message, by video, by email, and physically handing out some things that will communicate to the parents. Make sure parents know the upcoming dates of any fall kickoff events or any harvest parties, Christmas parties. Give them those as much in advance as you can. If you're working 3 to 6 months out, you should have those all on the calendar anyway. They should be already pre-planned and dated so that you have the basic details of at least to save the date with and the time. Give those families that, and it will help them see a rhythm for the fall that they can be effective in. Maybe even think about some short little podcasts that you could record for your parents to encourage them to find their rhythm, the Deuteronomy 6 rhythm, when they get up, when they lie down, when they sit around the table. Find those rhythms. Use the resources that your curriculums have. And if they don't have a family ministry resource, then there are plenty out there. Let me know. Hit me up at tom@tombump.com. I'll point you in their direction of a few resources that I know of that are quality for families. But create that welcoming environment. Maybe give your check-in area a spruce up. Change some things around. Get some new signage. Make it feel fresh and new, especially if you're having a specific launch Sunday. Even just some simple balloons and some streamers can make it feel special. Have some bubble wands out. Get people some of those funny hands so the greeters can high five kids as they're coming in, or get some of those welcome signs that you can have a few of your students or teenagers or volunteers welcoming people back for the fall. You want to have a couple weeks of that kickoff. Don't just do it for one weekend. I think a lot of churches make that mistake that they have one big kickoff weekend. Well, again, because church attendance is so sporadic nowadays, we need to be doing things multiple weekends so that we catch more families and they don't feel like we're punishing them because they miss. So encourage families. Start talking to some of the families about, what do you need to get it back into a healthy fall rhythm? What can we do to support you as parents? You want to ask specifically. So go get some families, take them out for coffee, and ask some questions. All right, last thing, and I think honestly this is probably the most important thing that you need to stop and think about before you get too far into fall. Our mindset as leaders is absolutely crucial to the success and to the success of our teams. As fall approaches, we need to be positive. We need to have a problem solving, everything is figure outable attitude. But we also need to know we can't do it alone and we shouldn't do it alone. We need to delegate. Now, I know some of you are already saying, well, Tom, I don't have anybody to delegate. Well, there's a mindset problem. Everybody can find somebody. If you don't believe that, well, then you're believing a lie of the enemy, and you need to rebuke it and drop it and move on from it, because the enemy will keep you held hostage. It happened to me. I get it. I was in a real small church. We had about 75 people. I had a great Sunday. We hit 100. And so I only had 3 or 4 volunteers. But you know what? I found one person that I could talk to and I encouraged to step up to the next level in their discipleship. And you know what? I got him as my teammate. And together, the two of us launched in. And it was awesome. It was a game changer for me. It changed my mindset to a positive one. You need to start thinking positively about recruitment, positively about the launch, positively about how your Sunday programming is going to go. If your programming isn't working, change it up, try it out, do a test run in this new fall season. Say, hey, for the next 6 months till Christmas, we're going to test out something new and we're going to try this. Hey, trust me, people will give you grace when you say, hey, I want to test something out here. I want to try this. So come with that mindset of you're going to be positive, you're going to adapt, you're going to tweak, you're going to learn, you're going to try it. And hey, you know what? You're going to fail, and that's okay, because you're going to learn what not to do. But everything is figure outable. If you're not sure how to split up a classroom, or you say, well, I'm just not sure if I have enough people to do this. Hey, you know what? If you start thinking through some potentials, maybe you start doing, maybe you'll, if you split a class, you're only going to have 5 in one room and 3 in another. Well, do it anyway, because you know what? You're going to have more room to grow. And that's a real small example. You get the idea. But you need to start thinking about, who are my higher level, my faithful few that have been faithful in the little things that could take on more. And then go ask them. Usually busy people know how to manage busy things. And so don't say no to them. Don't think they're too busy already. Again, you've got to change that mindset. You don't know until you ask. And some people say, oh, I just don't have any. Well, have you asked every single person in your church? Have you? Every single person? In person? Face to face? Yeah, I don't think so. Most of us haven't, because most of us disqualify people before we even ask. Listen, fire the inner lawyer, the inner critic, the inner cynic, the inner discourager. Strap it on the boot and just go. You can do this. You can find somebody to share the ministry with, and boy, I'll tell you, it's a game changer. You need to check in with your team, see how they're doing, see if what they're ready for, see if they are needing some resources or some more training. Find out what they need and get it done for them. It will help you so much to have a team that's excited to launch in the fall, because you've gotten them all the stuff that they need. You've trained them, you've encouraged them, you've equipped them, you've given them some solid vision for the fall to get going. So, as I wrap up this episode, I want you to think about 3 questions that you should ask yourself, and I want to give you 2 steps to take. So, the first question you should ask yourself is, what are the most critical roles that I, as the leader, need to fill? And who can I reach out to delegate at least one thing to? One of those tasks. You don't have to do every single critical role, but there are some critical roles that you just can't delegate. So those are yours. But you need to think about some of those other roles. What's one thing you can delegate? 2, how do we make our curriculum and our environment more engaging and relevant for the kids that we're serving? How do we do that? Think of 1 or 2 things that you can do to make it more engaging. 3, what are the specific tasks that I can really delegate out to my other team members to ensure a smoother operation? So spreading out the tasks will help everyone feel more connected to the mission. So here's 2 next steps that you could take. Schedule a meeting with some of your key leaders, those faithful few, and discuss some of the roles and responsibilities that you would like them to step into and ask them to join you at that higher level this fall. Set aside some time this week to review and prepare your rooms and your resource lists and gather all the necessary materials and supplies so that you are ready to go. All right, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast. I hope you found it helpful and encouraging and inspiring. I want you to stay tuned for another episode real soon. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast. We hope that it's helped and encouraged you. If you would support our podcast by continuing to share it with other leaders, and if you haven't already, hey, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast. We look forward to hearing from you how this podcast has helped and sharpened your skills in ministries. So let us know on your Facebook page or head over to kmccoach.net and share with us there. And thanks again for listening to the Kid Ministry Collective podcast.